Somewhere off Scotland's western coast, a storm has been going for hours. Waves climb the black rock and fall back into the dark. At the top of the cliff, one window still holds a light. Inside, the room is small. Stone walls, a low fire, shelves stacked floor to ceiling with logbooks, charts, old newspaper clippings. Every file up here holds a name that never got a proper ending. You made it up the stairs. Storm's bad tonight. Good night for this, actually. Come in, sit by the fire. Every keeper before me kept a record of what the sea took. I kept mine too. Tonight's file is a strange one. Fitting, actually. It's about a lighthouse, 3 keepers, 1 December, and a beacon that just stopped. Let's finish what the sea started. In December of 1900, a lonely lighthouse stood on the Flannan Isles, a small chain of wind-swept rocks far off the western coast of Scotland. The islands were uninhabited except for 3 lighthouse keepers whose job was simple in theory but brutally isolating in practice: keep the light burning, record the weather, and guide ships safely through dangerous waters. The lighthouse represented the difference between life and death for countless sailors. Storms rolled across the Atlantic with little warning, smashing enormous waves against cliffs that rose hundreds of feet from the sea. The keepers worked weeks at a time without seeing another face beyond the 3 men sharing the station. That December, the men on duty were principal keeper James Ducat, assistant keeper Thomas Marshall, and occasional keeper Donald McArthur. All 3 were experienced. None were strangers to the unforgiving Atlantic. I complain when my internet drops for 5 minutes. These guys were voluntarily living on a rock in the middle of the Atlantic where your closest neighbors were seagulls. The first sign that something was wrong came from passing ships. Several captains reported that the lighthouse appeared dark during nights when its beacon should have been visible. At first, poor weather was blamed. Heavy seas frequently delayed communication with the mainland. A relief vessel named Hesperus was scheduled to arrive on December 20th, but violent storms forced repeated delays. It would not reach the island until December 26th. As the ship approached the landing, something immediately felt wrong. No flag greeted the vessel. No keeper waited on the dock. No one answered the ship's horn. Relief keeper Joseph Moore climbed the steep path toward the lighthouse alone. The entrance door was closed. Inside, everything appeared strangely orderly. The beds had been made, the kitchen looked mostly untouched, a meal appeared to have been interrupted. One chair had been pulled back from the table, the clock had stopped. Yet there was no sign of the 3 men. Moore searched every room. He called their names. Nothing. The lighthouse that normally housed 3 keepers now echoed only with the sound of the Atlantic wind outside. Investigators soon noticed several unusual details. Oilskin jackets used during bad weather were missing, but not all of them. One set of waterproof gear had apparently been left inside. That suggested at least one man had gone outdoors without proper protection. For experienced sailors, especially during winter storms, that would have been highly unusual. Experienced sailors don't casually walk into Atlantic storms underdressed. That's like firefighters running into a burning building wearing flip-flops. Attention soon turned toward the western landing, where supply cranes and mooring equipment had suffered heavy storm damage. Boxes had been smashed, iron railings had been twisted, a massive rock weighing more than a ton had reportedly been displaced from its original position. The sea here was capable of astonishing violence. One theory suggested that one keeper had gone outside to secure equipment before a storm. A second followed to help. The third then left the lighthouse after noticing both men in danger. A sudden rogue wave could have swept all 3 into the ocean. At first glance, it sounds surprisingly reasonable. The Atlantic doesn't exactly ask permission before throwing mountains of water at you. Supporting that theory were entries found inside the lighthouse logbook. Several entries described unusually severe storms. One keeper reportedly wrote that the winds were unlike anything he had experienced in 20 years. Another noted that one of the men had been unusually quiet. The final entry reportedly stated that the storm had ended and that God was over all. Those diary entries became famous, but decades later, historians began questioning them. Weather records suggest no major storm struck the islands on the dates associated with several entries. Some researchers now believe the dramatic logbook passages may never have existed in the official records at all, having entered fan fiction over time rather than surviving as verified documents. This is where old mysteries become detective work about previous detective work. Turns out even century-old stories can pick up fan fiction. Without confirmed diary evidence, the strongest explanation remains tragically ordinary. The western landing clearly showed signs of severe wave damage. The Atlantic around the Flannan Isles is infamous for unpredictable seas. If all three men ended up outside together, a single enormous wave could have swept them from the rocks before anyone had chance to react. Yet, questions remain. Why would all three experienced lighthouse keepers abandon lighthouse protocol at the same time? Why leave the station unattended? Why would one man apparently leave without his oilskins? And why were no bodies ever recovered? Those unanswered questions transformed a likely maritime accident into one of Britain's most enduring disappearances. Our brains hate unfinished stories. Give us one missing piece, and suddenly we've invented ghosts, sea monsters, spies, and supernatural fog. Over the decades, theories multiplied. Some claimed foreign agents had abducted the men, others imagined pirates, still others blamed sea serpents, giant birds, paranormal forces, or the mythical little people said to inhabit the islands. None of these ideas have credible evidence supporting them. They survive largely because the true answer disappeared with the keepers themselves. Today, the Flannan Isles lighthouse still stands overlooking the Atlantic. It has long since been automated. The wind still howls across the cliffs, the waves still batter the rocks with incredible force. Visitors can see the lonely island from afar, but no one can say with certainty what happened during those final moments in December 1900.
Today, the Flannan Isles lighthouse still stands, automated now, no keeper required. The wind hasn't changed, the waves still hit the rock exactly the way they did in 1900. No confession, no bodies, just a room that was left mid-meal and three names nobody ever got to close the book on. I'll put this one back where it belongs. Storm's easing outside. Yours might not be if you're still thinking about that empty chair. Come back when you're ready for the next file.